How's it going, everyone? My name is Mike Bola, and welcome to the very first episode of Talking to Myself, a podcast that I'm creating as a way of trying to overcome some social anxiety. Now, I'll be honest, this first episode is going to be pretty rough. It's also going to be pretty short, as primarily I'm just going to be kind of outlining as to why I'm doing this and what I'm hoping to accomplish from it. And maybe if there's time, I'll get into like some other stuff. I don't know. It's also going to be a lot of unedited and unscripted stuff. But I'll get into that. So yeah, the first episode is, as I said, just going to be kind of short and kind of rough. I don't have any editing software at the moment. I'm working on getting some. But the reason that I'm doing this is because first off, as the name suggests, have a bad habit of just kind of talking to myself. And I figured, why not put it into a podcast? Maybe somebody would enjoy listening to it. And hey, it could be a lot of laughs. So I decided to sit down and make this podcast. The other reason, as I said before, is to try and get over some social anxiety stuff. I've always been a big fan of films, media, the internet, things like that. And I've always wanted to get myself out there. The problem is that I suffer from anxiety, and I'm fairly shy when it comes to things like talking on camera or talking to groups of people. I try to make it as quick and as short and as painless for myself as possible, and I know that can be a hindrance to myself. So, as a way of combating that, I am working to create this podcast and hopefully get more used to talking to a camera or talking to an audience that may or may not be listening, may or may not want to hear it, but still nevertheless talking to an audience so that I can overcome these challenges and hopefully one day put my skills to use. I'm 27. I'm from the upstate part of New York. If you're not sure where that is, look for Albany and then drive towards Canada. That's pretty much as point blank as I can make it. My goal in life is, as I said, I've always been a big fan of films and media and things like that. My goal in life is to eventually move west, get my bachelor's in film, and hopefully learn to take and put some of the ideas that I have for things down onto paper to create something more. And again, this podcast is here to help with that, as it kind of gives me a starting platform and a way of articulating myself without tripping over myself, which I'm doing a lot. And again, bear with me, it's all pretty much unedited and unscripted. I'm going just kind of off the top of my head here. You'll also notice that I'm flipping between looking actually at the camera and looking at myself. Well, that's because, again, I have problems talking to a camera. So talking to myself seems pretty natural. I've had a lot of friends tell me that I have a very easy to listen to voice, though sometimes I tend to ramble and most of what I say is nonsense and lunacy. And they've suggested in the past that I do a podcast. So here we are. I realize now that outlining this was not going to take as long as I thought it was going to be. I was thinking, I'm going to make a 15-minute video, but honestly, this is going quicker than I expected. So I'm not quite sure as to where to go next. Well, I guess part of the other reason I decided to make this podcast is because I recently moved from the country into the city, or the local city where I live. And there's a lot of differences between living in the country and living in the city that I've begun to notice. And on top of that, as someone who doesn't drive, tends to walk everywhere he goes, I've made a lot of observations to different things that go on. And so I kind of want to take and use this podcast as a way of I don't know, what the hell's the word? As a way of, I guess, talking about these different things, ranting about these different things. I don't know. I don't really want this to be a 20-minute video of some white guy rambling on the internet. There's plenty of those. In fact, if you want to go look at Donald Trump's tweets. Yeah, I know I probably should avoid political stuff. Oh well. Once I get editing software, this won't be a problem. But Nah, just little things I noticed. Like, I noticed that a lot of people take care of bicyclists, but there's a lack of, I'll say, respect and preparedness, at least in my city, for pedestrians, people that walk places. There's not a lot of crosswalks. They don't keep the roadsides clean. And a lot of the times you have bicyclists that think they own the sidewalks. We got some snow up here in upstate New York, and I was walking down the sidewalk, and some guy on a bike comes like across the street. He goes from one sidewalk completely across the street to where I am, and then proceeds to drive straight at me. So I then have to walk into the street and step in a puddle to avoid being hit by him. Why he couldn't continue further down the street and then pull across behind me once he was past me is beyond me. It was like this guy saw me from a distance and went, you know what? I'm going to make his life inconvenient right now. You know, and probably not the case, but hey, that's what it felt like. The other thing that we have in our city that I've noticed recently is we have, I don't want to call them a gang, but, well, I guess not recently. It was a few months ago, back before the snow started flying, when the weather was still kind of warm. When I first moved to the city, I noticed that we have a group of guys that ride around on electric bicycles. Now, don't get me wrong, bikes are a great way to get around. I'm actually considering getting one. In fact, I'm considering getting an electric scooter because I'm kind of heavy set, so I have to get something that will support my weight, and an electric scooter is right around that weight range. So, I think that's a pretty good idea. But it's 3 guys with electric bikes, one of which who spent a crap ton of money, and there's one of those GoPros on his helmet, like he's recording the Tour de France. And they just they ride around, and again, on the one hand, I think it's a great mode of transportation, but they act so badass, and I can't help but laugh at them, because they were riding along, the 3 of them, one day, and of course I'm walking home from work, and I notice them as they go by, and they're riding in a triangular formation down the sidewalk or across the parking lots, whatever you want to call it, and one of them rings what I assume is either a bell or a horn or something, and it just made this little dee noise, and I just started laughing. It was like, how are you going to be badass on an electric bicycle? All right, it's not a motorcycle. You are not a Harley fan. You are some guy that bought a convenient mode of transportation. You are by far not at all a big shot. But he was so badass, and it was just I have respect for you, but at the same time, some little girl is gonna hop off her Razor scooter and beat your ass for getting in her way, and that's gonna be the end of it. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. This minute is now 8 minutes, so I think that's a pretty good place to stop. Again, this is the very first episode of Talking to Myself, and there is going to hopefully be more to come if I don't decide to scrap the whole project. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, leave a like, and yeah, I'll be back probably next Tuesday with another video. Peace.